Hey everyone, let's finish our discussion on micronutrients today. Just a quick reminder that plants need nutrition. They do photosynthesis. Photosynthesis gives them their food, but they also need nutrients that they get from the air, from water, and from the soil. Carbon and oxygen, they both come from the air. The plant takes in carbon dioxide. It splits apart the carbon and oxygen that carbon dioxide is made out of. And it uses the carbon and uses a little bit of the oxygen, but releases most of it, which is a good thing because we breathe it in. Hydrogen comes from water, H2O. The plant splits apart the hydrogen from the oxygen, uses the hydrogen, once again releases most of the oxygen for us to breathe in. We talked about primary macronutrients. The plant needs large amounts of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The biggest one of those was nitrogen. Then we talked about secondary macronutrients. The plants still need these in large amounts, just not as much as the primary macronutrients. And those are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. And then in the last Ed puzzle, we talked about micronutrients that are needed in small amounts. The plants get those from the soil. I should say that they get all the macronutrients from soil also. And so far, we've talked about boron, chlorine, copper, and iron. We want to finish our discussion today on micronutrients by talking about manganese. We want to talk about molybdenum. We want to talk about nickel and zinc. So let's get started. If I can get the slides to advance. So, here we go. Manganese. Manganese is a micronutrient. You can see here an example of a plant that is suffering from manganese deficiency. Manganese helps with photosynthesis, so it's crucial to the plant. It helps germination, which is a seed sprouting. When a seed sprouts and sends up its very first leaves, that's called germination. And then for those plant leaves to mature, to maturity, manganese helps with that. It is immobile in the plant, which means it does not move around the plant well. So once the plant takes it in and uses it, that's where it stays. So symptoms show up in new growth and include yellowing between the veins and necrotic spots. Here you see the yellowing between the veins. The leaf veins are the dark areas. Leaf veins are tubes in the plant leaf that water and nutrients flow through. And you can see here that those areas are dark green. Now, why do the deficiency symptoms show up in new growth? Well, think about this. If manganese is taken into the plant and then it doesn't move from where it's used in the original growth and it stays there. And then when new growth occurs, since manganese can't move, it can't go to that new growth to help it. So the symptoms show up in the new growth. In some elements, they move really well through the plant, so the symptoms will show up in the old growth because they'll be taken in, and then if there's not enough of it, they leave the old growth to go to the new growth to help it, and then the old growth starts to show symptoms from lack of that particular nutrient. It could be a micronutrient, it could be a macronutrient. It just depends on whether they are mobile, can move through the plant, or immovable, stay in the same spot. Molybdenum. Oops, went too far forward. It's also a micronutrient. It helps the plant to absorb nitrogen and phosphorus. Those are primary macronutrients that the plant needs lots of. So molybdenum helps that to happen. If they don't have it, then you've got problems. You only need a small amount. Deficiencies, yellowing the leaves, and interveinal chlorosis. Remember, chlorosis is that yellowing of the leaves. So interveinal, what does that mean? It means the areas in between the leaf veins. And so you can see here in this grass blade, the leaf veins go straight up and they're side by side. Kind of hard to see in that. But this yellowing area, it's in between those leaf veins. Oops. Nickel. Nickel is also a micronutrient. It helps the plant to use nitrogen. Molybdenum helps it to get it in. nickel helps it to use it. It's a metal. You only need really small amounts. Deficiencies, necrotic. Remember, necrotic means that the leaf is dying, so it's going to show up as brown spots on the leaf tips. And mouse ears or curled leaves. And here you see that classic curling of the leaf because of a nickel deficiency. Zinc, a micronutrient. It's part of enzymes. Enzymes are chemicals within the plant, and you have enzymes in your body too, that make chemical reactions that are crucial happen. So if you don't have those enzymes, then chemical reactions don't happen the way they should, and then you have all kinds of troubles. Zinc is really important for fruit development, for seed development, and root development. And deficiencies include stunted growth, which means the plant is going to be much smaller, smaller leaves because that stunted growth, and interveinal, again, chlorosis, yellowing between plant leaf veins. And you can see that here in this leaf, how it's yellow in between the veins, and then in the veins it's dark. Remember, the veins are tubes that carry water and nutrients in and out of the leaf. So that's zinc. Now, you might have noticed something. A lot of these symptoms all sound the same. Yellowing, chlorosis, different parts of the plant sometimes, but a lot of them sound an awful lot the same. Or you have troubles with necrotic spots. Well, there are two ways that you can figure out what's going on, because all the symptoms seem a lot the same. So you look at a leaf and you go, well, gosh, it's got some kind of deficiency, but I don't know if it's a micronutrient, I don't know if it's a macronutrient, I definitely don't know which one it is. Well, there are two important things you can do to find out. First, you can do a soil test and check, are those micro and macronutrients in the soil? And if they're not, then you know, well, gosh, I don't have these macro and micronutrients, so I definitely need to add them. Well, how can you add them? Fertilizers. Fertilizers are nutrition for the plant. You can have organic or natural fertilizers like manure, or you could have inorganic ones. You could go to a garden store and you can buy a bag of granular fertilizers from Scott's, or buy some liquid fertilizer and apply it to the plant according to the instructions on the container. That'll help, but here's the real way that you can tell what the problem is with the plant. The absolute best test is to take a sample of the leaf and send that to a lab to have the leaf analyzed to find out what micro and macronutrients are and aren't present. And that'll tell for certain exactly what the deficiency is, so then you can correct the problem. So we've talked about macronutrients, primary and secondary macronutrients. We've talked about the three main things that the plant gets from air and from water: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. And we've talked about the micronutrients. We'll turn our attention next to fertilizers and how can we solve these problems if there's deficiencies.